Alright, guys, welcome to the third episode of the Syntonic podcast. This week we have an update for Firestream. We're going to go over some hardware news. We're going to have a code demo with Firebase and GeoFire. And then we also have a special treat with Joe's maiden VR voyage.
Yeah, he's going to be trying out the HTC Vive for the first time. It should be pretty exciting.
So let's get into this.
So first off, we're going to talk about Firestream. Little update for you guys. We have released the beta for our Android client, which you can find at our website, firestreamapp.com, and you can just link to the Google Play Store page for Firestream. So go ahead, check it out, get in on the beta, and let us know what you think. And moving from that, we're just going to go ahead and dive into some hardware news. So this is kind of big. There's leaked information for the new lineup of AMD Ryzen processors, and they're looking pretty promising. So we've got a table with all the different models here, and at the top of the list, it's the AMD Ryzen 7 1800X. The X basically means that it has the XFR extended frequency range, which is like turbo overclocking. Basically,
Turbo Plus.
Yeah, it's automatic overclocking, so it'll adjust the frequency on the fly, even past the turbo clock that it's rated for, which is pretty cool. So this top of the line model here is 8 cores, 16 threads, 16 megabytes of cache, pretty low power draw at 95 watts, and then the base clock and turbo clock is 3.6 and 4. It's $500, and that's pretty good compared to what you can get for Intel. So the 7700K is $350, and you're only getting 8 threads, half the amount of cache, about the same power draw. Now with that one, you are going to get the higher base clock and turbo, and presumably overclock speeds, and it is cheaper. But Intel's offering of 8-core processors isn't that great at the moment. And AMD, that's pretty much what they're known for, is a lot of cores being pretty affordable.
And now their clock speeds are getting...
Yeah, now their clock speeds are getting up there.
Yeah.
So just for comparison, the i7-6900K it launched last year, and it's kind of comparable to that top-of-the-line Ryzen model.
It's probably the closest.
Yeah, so it's $1,000 still, which is not cheap, so double the price. You get 8 cores and 16 threads. You get a little bit more cache, and the power draw is quite significantly more, like 50 watts, 45 watts. And then it ends up being that they're going to have the same turbo frequency, and then since both are unlocked, you're going to be able to overclock even further past that. So I don't know, these are pretty comparable processors.
But double the price,
yeah,
lower base clock.
And I guess a lot of people out there that are into this like enthusiast market are looking for processors for games. And I don't know, the Kaby Lake processor probably still has, specifically the 7700K, might have an edge still just because of the higher base clock speeds. And you don't, for games, you still, at this point, don't really need more than a couple threads. Most are still like single threaded applications. But if you're doing other work like video rendering or that kind of media creation stuff, then the additional threads might help you out there. So then in reaction to that, it looks like Intel is rumored to be creating 2 more models, which are basically just overclocked further versions of the pre-existing models. So they're going to have apparently the 7740K, which is an overclocked 7700K, and then there's an additional i5 model, 7640K. And along with this, they're going to be supposedly decreasing the prices of the Kaby Lake lineup to kind of match with the Ryzen offerings, which, I don't know, could help. I like that they're doing something to
It's at least compete. Creating, a competitive market compared to
what
years past where Intel has basically had a monopoly.
Yeah.
This shows that there might be some either big advances or lower prices in the future.
Yeah. I really do like this news. Keep a grain of salt for this because it is leaked information, but it seems to be pretty reliable in what we're going to expect for these CPUs. And I'm pretty excited. I don't know. I might be in the market for a new CPU now, and these seem like they might be the way to go for my purposes at least. Okay, so next up we're going to move on to our code demo, which is for GeoFire and Firebase. So if you don't know what Firebase is, it's Google's basically online mobile platform that encompasses kind of a suite of a bunch of different tools. So they've got real-time functionality with their database, push notifications, bunch of cool stuff.
Mobile ads.
Yeah, mobile ads.
Like we covered last week, they
Yeah.
merged with Fabric.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then they're
They're
getting
going to
a
be
whole new
acquiring
suite.
like Crashlytics and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Firebase is really cool. We used it in a bunch of projects. And then recently I found out about GeoFire, which is a pretty cool kind of addition to Firebase. And basically what GeoFire does is it allows you to make real-time location-based queries on your Firebase database data. And one of the drawbacks to the Firebase real-time database is that it's hard to make complex queries like you'd find in SQL databases. And this, since it's kind of integrated with like real-time and it's kind of targeting like real-time apps, location-based queries are pretty helpful for finding kind of objects that are stored near you. So we're going to be doing a demo for that, and GeoFire has different SDKs available for JavaScript, Objective-C, and Swift, and Java, so you can get covered on all your different either web-based or mobile-based clients. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. No. Okay, here. So we're going to start off, and you can follow along if you want. I'll link the repository that we created for this in the video description. So first we're going to just create a node app, a node package, so you can do npm init and just kind of put whatever you want. And then we're going to need a index.js file as the root entry path. So in this, what we're going to basically do is configure our Firebase project. So first of all, you're going to need to create a new app in Firebase, and that process should be pretty self-explanatory. You just go to firebase.google.com, sign up if you don't have an account. I think it just uses your Google account. Make a new project, and then you're going to go ahead and add Firebase to your web app, and make sure you record the details that it gives you. It's going to give you like an API key and the URL for your database, so make sure you store that information. Then we're going to go ahead and change our security rules for the database. So you can go into the rules section, and for now, just go ahead and change it to read true and write true as like a global rule. This isn't something you want to do in production because it's not secure, but for development it's fine. And you can add this for what we're going to be doing in a minute. Basically this will just help with the query execution time, and then publish those changes once you're done with that. So once you've done that, you can create the index.js file, and then we're going to go ahead and install all of the packages that we're going to need for this, which are only 3. So we can do npm install save .env is the first one, then Firebase, then GeoFire. If you're not familiar with .env, it's a pretty cool little package that basically lets you configure runtime, what are they called? Environment variables for your runtime, and that's basically what we're going to be using to store the Firebase credentials, just so you don't have those stored in a GitHub repository or something. Okay, so once you've installed those, we're going to go and create a new file called .env, and you're going to paste in details that are similar to these. Don't hack us if you want, but it's fine. So you're going to need Firebase API key. You can call these whatever you want. It'll just be reflected in how you retrieve them in the code. With your API key, then your authDomain, and then your database URL. So then in index.js, first of all, we're going to do configure the .env variables. So you're going to do require .env.config, and this will basically pull in that .env package and configure it. And basically this sets those variables that are in the .env file onto process.env, and then so it's Firebase db URL or whatever, and that's how you can access those variables. So once you've done that, we're going to require the other packages that we're going to need for this, which are GeoFire and Firebase. Now we're going to have to do the configuration. So it's going to look pretty much like this, assuming you followed along to this point. So you're just going to create a configuration object with API key, authDomain, and database URL, and then just call firebase.initializeApp with that object. Now I'm going to paste in some more code here, and then we're going to take it step by step and just kind of explain what it all does. So for this demo, basically what we're going to want to do is, I'll give an example for our own Firestream app. So basically we're using Firebase for Firestream. It makes sense, right? And so basically we store all of the party information in party objects in a table on Firebase called parties, and then we use location services to find nearby parties when you're in the app. So those are stored in a separate table with GeoFire called parties locations. So basically for this example, we're going to create a table and just have it be generic. We're going to call it items, and then another table called items locations. And so items is going to hold all of the item objects, and then items location will just hold the GeoFire location data. Alright, so let's take this step by step. First off, I just have a helper function to get a random pair of latitude and longitude coordinates, because we're going to be using locations, so that'll be pretty helpful. And then I've got this add item function. We're going to just walk through that. So basically this is going to create a new item in Firebase and then a new item location in Firebase as well. So first you're just going to use the Firebase module to get the database reference. Then you can make the item reference with database.ref of items, and that'll go to your item table. Then we can grab the reference to GeoFire, and the syntax for that is a little bit different. You're going to create a new object of GeoFire with the reference of database.items location. So this is the other table. Then we're going to build up our new item object. So we're going to push, since it's going to be a list of items in the items table, we're going to just take the reference to item, the items table, and push onto it, and this will give us that new object reference. Then we're going to grab a random set of coordinates with the function we made earlier, and then we're going to make a random string just for simplicity. So then on that item reference, we're going to do set, and then we're going to set the location just so we can have that on the item itself with the coordinates, and then name to name. And then we get a promise back, so we're going to say then we can log that the item was added successfully, and then we can add the GeoFire location as well. So with that GeoFire reference to item locations, we're going to set the item key. So when we pushed, we get this new reference to an item, and then if you do the .key property of new item ref, that's going to give you that ID. So we can do geofire.set ID, and then we're going to give it those coordinates. Then we get a promise back from that, and then we could just log that it did it successfully. Now, just for ease of use, we made this other function add items, and it'll just loop through and add 100 items so we can get some good data to test with. The last function, second to last function we're going to use is get nearby items. So this is where you're going to be querying for items that are near your location. So again, we're going to get the database reference, then the GeoFire reference. Now, this is where we actually do the querying. So we're going to create a center point from just a random coordinate pair again, and then radius, which is just say let's say 3,000 kilometers. So this is going to try and get any items that are within 3,000 kilometer range of our center point. So then we're going to call we're going to create what we call a geoquery. So we're going to do GeoFire reference.query with center of center and radius of radius in kilometers. And then we're going to just notify ourselves that we're finding items near that center point. Now this is cool. So we get a callback on the geoquery for the event key entered. And basically that means that whenever an item enters that range, we get a callback with the key of the item and the location. So once we do that, we can just say, hey, we got this item. It entered our radius with this coordinate location. Now, to use this on the command line, we're just going to make it so that we process the command line arguments for node. So if you might not be aware, I think with process.argv, it already comes with 2 arguments no matter what you pass in at the command line. So we're just going to slice those off. And then we're going to say, let's have add as an argument and query as an argument. And we're just going to do add items and get nearby items respectively. So in our command line, assuming we've set up everything properly, we're going to just do node index add, and it's going to get a whole lot of output because it's going to add 100 items. You can see item added with name, set location for item with name. And we can just do that a couple more times. Get a couple hundred items up in there. And then when we break out of that, we can do node index query, and it's going to find all of these items that are within 3,000 kilometers of this random point. So then we can check back in Firebase into our data, and we can see there's a ton of items that we've added into the items table, and along with that there are a ton of items locations. So if you want to see how it's stored in here, you can just open up one item, and we just have the location, which is an array of latitude and longitude, and then a name. And then in the item locations, this is what GeoFire takes care of. So this is basically the geo hash and then the location array. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so like I said, we're using this in our own app, Firestream, to query parties by location. And I really like GeoFire. It seems like I was trying to figure out how to do location-based queries with Firebase for a long time, since you can't do too complex of queries, and this seems like a really nice solution to kind of just throw in there.
And it's really fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast because it stores these off, not along with the actual item objects itself. Yeah, so that's pretty much it with the code demo. So now we're gonna get into the VR experience for Joe here. So while we're setting that up, we're going to just talk a little bit about our thoughts on VR and kind of where that's headed. I'll be the first to admit that I was pretty skeptical of the Vive and VR in general, and I got an opportunity to try it out, and I was hooked. It's pretty cool. If you haven't tried it out, I recommend trying to get your hands on one to
I don't think
play
you
with
stopped
it.
talking about it since the day you tried it.
Yeah. And so we went out and got one. We've been playing it with it for the last couple weeks, and it's a good time.
Probably gonna do a hackathon project.
Yeah,
for
we're
the
trying
next hackathon with the VR. We'll see how that goes.
There you are, Joe.
Yeah. Here we go.
On. Yeah.
Joe's the
I'm
only one
donning
who hasn't tried
the
it yet.
Vive right now.
Hopefully this works well. My room is not the best setup for
Oh wow.
this. Are you in there?
Oh, I'm in there.
Let's see if we can get a
Oh, this is pretty cool.
mirror. Oh, there
Oh
we go.
yeah.
So you guys have the sensor set? Oh, okay, yeah. I see
Yeah,
you.
you can see
Okay,
them up
sweet.
on the wall. They look like little
Sandwiches.
sandwiches,
and Post-it notes.
post-it notes.
Yeah, I can see them. If I stand up, I know I'm gonna walk into something.
No, you don't have a whole lot of space. But
You get a boundary whenever you get near the edges. It kind of brings up a grid around you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you
yeah.
should
They
be
have
able to see it.
that white outline that
Yeah,
surrounds you.
yeah,
And I probably look like an idiot because I think I'm pointing at things right now.
yeah, you look a little silly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
This is really neat.
It's pretty cool. It's I feel like it's something that until you try it, you don't really
Understand.
know what. Yeah, you don't know
Yeah.
what it feels like.
Yeah, I've actually never used one before.
Yeah.
This is, it's more than immersive. It's pretty cool. It's definitely cool. I could very easily see, though, how somebody would get hurt, and my hand's just going away. It's levitating off into the distance now.
I think-
guess.
I think
tracking might be having some issues with that. That's okay.
What have you guys done with this besides just played around with maps? Have you used any apps for it yet?
We've played a couple of games.
There's a few games out there, not a ton.
The zombie game is really good.
Yeah, Zombie Training Simulator. It's a good game.
That came free with the Vive, and then there's what's the
The lab.
portal? Yeah, the lab. The lab
That's a
has
really
a
good
bunch of mini games or just environments to play around with, and those are really good.
Yeah, apart from that, I've messed around in Unity 3D a little bit with the Steam VR SDK. It seems pretty powerful. A lot of built-in functionality for both the Vive and other VR headset support. See Joe's
going
looking
off.
around.
It's pretty cool.
He's going off the grid.
I'm trying to. I don't know if this grid is
He's gonna
based off. Like,
something.
is this? Are they determining the edges of this grid
So
based on the sensors?
When you set it up, you set like your play area.
You can paint out the
Yeah,
boundaries.
and I kind of lied on it because my room isn't big enough to actually support it, so I put it past where you should be able to go. A little bit dangerous.
Yeah,
But if you
smack the desk a few
if you
times.
double tap the bottom button on one of the controllers,
Okay.
like here,
Where is it?
Point his thumb towards it, because you can't see
there.
it.
Do you see that?
Oh yeah, okay, I see it.
Yeah. So that kind of gives you
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
oh hey.
Oh, can you guys see? You guys can see what I see now.
Yeah. We're seeing what you see on the screen.
Can I go back?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's
can go
really
back.
cool.
So it does some like edge detection with
Yeah.
that.
It's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can see. I don't think it's really missing anything. That's nice.
Yeah, so I feel like VR is cool. I don't know if I'm totally on board with it being like the absolute future of like gaming and stuff.
Hey.
I mean,
I feel like
I know.
there's always gonna be.
I think
the-
it's immersive enough visually.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
And even like while playing the zombie game, even just like the controllers, I still feel like I'm grabbing.
Right.
Really?
Right.
How in terms of like physically moving around the space, does it? So like for the zombie game, it's just tracking your movement in like kind of a confined.
Yeah. So that's the one drawback that I feel is.
Yeah, moving doesn't really. It's not
I've seen
there
some.
yet.
You can move around your play area, but
That's only if you can physically walk.
right. So when you run out of space to walk, most
edge
games
of the
that
map.
have like movement implemented, you teleport instead of actually walking.
Really?
So if you like hold down a button and like look at where you want to go and release, it'll
Then
teleport
you
there.
teleport there.
It's cool.
And I
Have you guys
feel like
seen-
that's a decent solution because the big drawback of like if you were to use the pad on the Vive controller to move is a lot of people experience motion sickness
I can see
because
that, no shit.
your brain gets confused that you're like moving when you're not, and it's kind of weird.
Have you guys seen those frictionless platforms that you can play on? I don't know if you guys.
No,
have seen
well,
those.
yeah, like the Omni.
The treadmill thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
That is what we need.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe for
think
the next
none
podcast.
of those are in production yet. I don't think. I think the Omni one was pushed back, but I think that would solve a decent amount of
Yeah.
the movement. And then I
Yeah.
guess at that point,
It's gonna be
it would
expensive
be like
though.
maybe like just tactile feedback.
Yeah,
would be
they
the only
have
thing
a
you're
couple
missing.
like haptic feedback vests and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you see the camera
these,
on your
do
hand?
these vibrate themselves?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, and they do a decent job.
Yeah.
And when playing like Fruit Ninja and stuff, if you like go through the fruit,
Yeah.
you feel like
Where
the
you hit it.
impact.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
yeah. I feel like the only other thing is that we had some challenges setting it up, and I feel like it's not quite consumer level
Yeah,
friendliness
yeah.
to where it could be in the future. But
It's mostly for enthusiasts at this
yeah, yeah. I mean, the Vive is $800 still,
Yeah.
which is not cheap. Plus, you need
You
a
need the
good
graphics
computer
card, yeah.
to be able to run it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the main drawback for me, at least.
Sweet.
Otherwise, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. The only other thing is the lack of like AAA games at this point. But since it is built on
Relatively.
like an open SDK, anyone can get their hands on Unity Personal Edition and
Hmm.
make a game if you want.
All right. Well, I think
That pretty much wraps it up for this this episode of the podcast. So
thanks for tuning in.
yep, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.